So this month for our skill refresh, we are talking about relationship coaching. And I want to refresh you and remind you about how to even go about designing the alliance for groups. So you're still going to use the same assumptions, the same agreements, with a couple of additions and exceptions, and then you're going to really spend a lot of time developing the safety norms for your designed alliance with a relationship or with a group so that you all know and agree to how you're going to be together. You want to remember that to let your clients know and remind yourself in the designed alliance that everyone is partially right and everyone is partially wrong, including the coach. You also want to remind them that there are no secrets when it comes to relationship coaching. So as the coach, you can't really take sides when you're coaching a group, coaching a team, coaching a relationship. And then when you move into designing your alliance, you want to take a couple of steps before you even get into the agreements. The icebreaker, then the de-icer, then you design the alliance, and then you move into some sort of experience, whether that just be a coaching session or an intentional coaching experience that you've set up for that relationship, for that group. So the icebreaker is always meant to reduce anxiety. There are lots of different ways you can do that through introductions with some curious questions. There are all sorts of icebreakers all over the internet. But if the icebreaker doesn't reduce anxiety, it's not an icebreaker. So you're not asking people for their deepest, darkest secrets or anything like that, because that actually increases anxiety and puts you in more of an away state in your nervous system. But what we're really trying to do is help people get to their toward state in their nervous system where they are, things are kind of quiet, they're slightly happy, they're more inward looking, and they're not focused directly on any problem so it's not focused directly on their coaching agenda or anything that they've come there to solve. The de-icer then starts increasing vulnerability. So it might heighten anxiety a little bit, but because you've already reduced anxiety and you're showing up with a non-anxious presence as the coach, you can then go into the de-icer and start increasing vulnerability by breaking down some walls. This is where we can ask some more in-depth questions, some more personal questions. You can do activities that are a little bit more probing and soul-searching to start breaking down those barriers. But it's important that in the icebreaker and de-icer that everyone is invited to participate, but it's not demanded of them. The more people that can participate, the less anxiety that there's going to be, and the more vulnerability that there's going to be. But if you demand participation or force participation, then you're not honoring your agreements and you're not honoring the assumption that the client is ready to live at choice. So they're ready to know when they want to use their voice and when they don't want to use their voice. Okay. So just always remember when you're going into designing the alliance for groups to start with an icebreaker, then the de-icer, then the designed alliance, and then the group or relationship coaching experience. The second thing that we wanted to talk about is Gottman's 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, or the team toxins. Now there is one team toxin that can go by 2 different names depending on the literature that you're looking at. It could either be called blaming or criticism. So just know that it's blaming or criticism can be used interchangeably. Then you've got defensiveness, still the same, stonewalling, still the same, contempt, still the same. So one of the most effective tools for really engaging with the horsemen from a place of safety and non-blaming and non-defensiveness is the activity that you go through when you are in coaching and systems at the on-site in the Lark Certified Coach Training Program. So I would encourage you, if you have not done that with a couple or a family or a team or a group yet, to try that out. Definitely do it with a co-leader so that one of you can be paying attention to process and the other person can be paying attention to content and function. And what you do is you lay out a grid on the floor, a 2x2 grid, so there are 4 squares. In each square, you put one of the team toxins. So blaming or criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. And you want to do them in that order too, because defensiveness goes into stonewalling and blaming goes into contempt. So as the way that you would set it up is you would tell the participants that you are going to invite them to explore the team toxins, or the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and let them know that we all use all of the toxins at different times, but some of us are more comfortable or have been conditioned to use 1 or 2 more than the others. Then you tell them to step into whichever square they'd like to start with, and you demonstrate as you're explaining that you'll give them 2 minutes in each square to embody that toxin and to remember it. So start remembering the times that it has come up in them. Not when someone has done it to them, but when that toxin has been alive and well in them. And then you have some sort of bell or chime that you can ring to indicate that it's time to move. I always am really clear about how to move in between 2, making sure to tell them we're gonna move clockwise. You'll spend 2 minutes in each square and embodying and remembering. And then when they get around, making sure that they know too that the bigger they can make it in their bodies, the more effective it's going to be, and that this activity should be done in silence. So once they've navigated all 4 squares, you're gonna have them step outside of the grid, and you can ask them a few curious questions about how the activity was for them, what surprised them, what square felt most natural and comfortable to them. And then you can explain a little bit of how each of us goes into these places because of a need and because of something that we're trying to protect. So then you ask them to come back in to whatever square is their default, or to position themselves in the grid where they feel most at home. So they position themselves in the grid, then you reveal the system to itself, right? You ask them, what are you noticing about this system? What are you noticing about where you've placed yourselves? What does that tell you about how the system handles conflict? So you just continue, you're still not making assumptions, you're still using clean language, you're asking a lot of questions that reveals the system to itself. And then you go through each quadrant and ask them, when you go here, what do you need? What are you trying to protect? And how can someone help? So what do you need? What are you trying to protect? And how can someone help? You can add in other curious questions as well, but those 3 are really effective in increasing empathy, awareness, and choice for the system. So as they're moving through, they start to understand that each square gets an opportunity to talk. You use deep democracy by making sure each person in the grid has an opportunity and is invited to use their voice. If there is a square or a toxin that someone has not inhabited, like it's left empty, then you as the coach can step into that square and talk about what is it that people, when they go here, what do they need? And what are they trying to protect, and how can people help? And then you can really, after this activity, it's a great time to take a break and encourage everyone to take care of themselves. So hopefully I will hear so many examples of you using the team toxins and coming up with creative ways to design your alliance for groups. And I hope this skill refreshes you.